A source tells CNN that the United Nations Security Council is expected to hold an emergency meeting tomorrow to discuss this week's Russian drone incursion into Poland. Dozens of drones crossed into Poland Tuesday night into Wednesday. NATO fighter jets scrambled and shot some of them down. A total of 16 were found scattered across Poland yesterday. Russia's defense ministry said in a statement that it carried out a strike against Ukraine that night, but, quote, no targets on the territory of Poland were planned for destruction, unquote. By the way, we're not talking about little baby drones like you can buy online. We're talking about big ones like the one you're looking at in this footage. Ones from Iran, they can do significant damage. Let's get some insights now from former Special Presidential Envoy Brett McGurk. Brett, thanks for joining us. So Polish officials say that the sheer number of drones made it clear that this was a deliberate act by Russia. And that was echoed by Ukrainian President Zelensky today, who's comparing the drone incursion to Russia's annexation of Crimea. What do you think the Russians are up to here?
If I had to speculate, if you look at a map, it's hard to suggest that that was a mistake. If I had to speculate, I think they're kind of probing, testing how NATO responds. Look, Jake, this is a completely unprecedented event, but unfortunately, I don't think it's a first. I think this drone warfare is the wave of the future, no pun intended. And if I look at NATO's response, it's good there was a response. You don't wake up every morning seeing the Dutch defense minister saying our F-35s were in the sky downing Russian drones in NATO airspace. This is totally unprecedented. At the same time, to use F-35s, the most expensive air platform in the world, to take down these really Iranian drones that Russia produces, are very cheap, very easy to make. That's not the most cost-effective way to do that. So I know Poland has triggered Article 4 of the Atlantic Charter, meaning we need immediate consultations. And those consultations should really be focused on the defenses in the eastern flank of NATO against drones. You can't rely just on F-35s. You need electronic warfare, all sorts of defensive systems that I know have been in development, that have been deployed. But I think this event, I think Russia's probably probing, but NATO has a lot of work to do to really harden those defenses.
Here in D.C. today, a bipartisan group of U.S. senators pushed for passage of a bill adding Russia to the list of state sponsors of terrorism under U.S. law, specifically for kidnapping Ukrainian children and taking them into Russia. Take a listen to Republican Senator Katie Britt of Alabama.
It is clear that Putin will never do the right thing without being forced to. And now is time to make that happen.
Lawmakers also are demanding a vote on imposing more sanctions on Russia. Do you think either of those actions would make a difference in Vladimir Putin's behavior?
Well, Jake, they're not decisive, but the senator is right. I think, look, where this is heading, just as an analyst, I think this war is heading into an escalation phase through the winter. I think Putin very clearly, he is targeting the electricity grid inside Ukraine. He is trying to make sure that the winter months in Ukraine will be unbearable. The Biden administration spent a lot of time working to harden those electricity grids to make sure the heat can stay on in the heating season. Putin is going after it. There have been 3,000 attacks since the spring directed against that electricity and heating structure inside Ukraine. So this is going to continue. The only way for diplomacy to succeed, you need leverage. Diplomacy without leverage, I've said before, is like music without instruments. And that means economic sanctions. That means military support for Ukraine. That is just the course we're on, unless we just want Putin to continue this for as long as he sees fit, and he is all in. So, yeah, I think the senator's right. That's not a decisive action. You need sanctions. You need military support for Ukraine. You need coordination with allies to make clear to Putin that this is not cost-free for you. And of course, the Russians are suffering. They've taken almost 1 million military casualties. Their economy's in rough shape. But you got to keep the pressure on if you want the president's policy to succeed, and we all should. We want this war to end. We want diplomacy to work. But you have to back up the diplomacy with leverage.
Just put this in the context of the Alaska summit, which was August 15th. It is obviously September 11th today. We're approaching the 1-month anniversary. Do Putin's actions when it comes to drones in Poland indicate that that summit was a failure?
I don't want to call it one or the other. I would say, President Trump likes to say this war never would have started if he was president in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. Impossible to prove or disprove that. I think that claim is probably dubious. But one thing we know is a fact, the 3 largest attacks of this entire war have happened this year. between June and August of this year. The largest attack was just 2 weeks ago. So Putin has escalated, and he's escalated since the summit. Look, the summit had some merit in distilling the issues you need to get to an agreement. What do you need? You need agreement of land swaps along that line of contact in eastern Ukraine, coupled with, this is key, coupled with security guarantees for Ukraine, because they're not going to be able to give up territory without a security guarantee to ensure that Putin is not just reloading to launch another invasion over the coming years. Those are the two issues. There's been work since the summits on what a security guarantee can look like. The Europeans are working with us on that. That has to be sharpened up. But in the meantime, I go back to my first point. Without leverage here, demonstrating to Putin that this is not cost-free for you, economic pressure is going to increase. There's bipartisan support in Congress for this. And the White House has to put those tools in the kit. Otherwise, the diplomacy is going to continue to flail.
Brett McGurk, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it, sir.